So, what can you say? You're seeing a worst case scenario happen right now. Aaron Cromer shot his mouth off to Ian Rappaport. I don't want to say allegedly, but he owned up to the fact that he talked to Ian Rappaport and said that Jay Cutler is giving the Chicago Bears a case of a buyer's remorse, and basically throwing him under the bus. Sure, Jay Cutler deserves the criticism. I'm not going to argue about that. But especially when you own up to it or get caught by the organization and then had to apologize to the organization, to the team, allegedly very tearful. But what you have is broken trust. You have complete dissent and complete disarray. In this case, inmates really running the asylum. You have systematic organizational breakdown within the Bears front office, their coaching, their managerial staff, their players, their alleged leaders, which, frankly, there are no leaders on this team. Your alleged leaders are injured and unable to perform, and in football, those are probably the worst types of the worst thing that can happen to your core leadership or perceived tenured core, well, absolutely tenured, but your perceived core leadership, specifically Charles Peanut Tillman, and Lance Briggs. So you have the bright lights, the modern bright lights of media, Twitter, social media, shining right on the Chicago Bears, and they look like a dusty old bag in some forgotten attic. It is pathetic how poor this organization looks. If this was the New England Patriots, Robert Kraft would burn the thing down. Chances are he would even indict himself, and he would point the finger at himself for his failure and ownership and his responsibilities. You have just a disaster going on right now in the Bears organization. In Halas Hall, the McCaskey family, managerial staff, it's pathetic is what it comes down to. And most oftentimes, sunlight cures these things. I do not believe that the Bears organization has the ownership group, has the managerial staff, has the leadership staff that is capable to get them out from where they are, to get them out from the hole from which they have been in for the better half of probably 30 to 40 years. Put that in perspective. Now, yes, I talk Chicago sports, and yes, I have talked very, very passionately about the Chicago Bears. There was a point in time where, yes, I was more of an NFL fan because of the sheer futility and the sheer acceptance of mediocrity from the Bears organization. And I'm very grateful for that because I've been able to look around the NFL and see and enjoy how the rest of the teams and how other teams do operate. So what can I bring to this sort of conversation? You need systematic changes, as I said before. You need an ownership group that's willing to do what's necessary to find and identify the correct professionals to get them out of the situation. I don't particularly care for the term czar, but you need football people. You need people that eat, sleep, breathe, repeat football. And you need them fast. The organization just flat out needs an enema to just get everybody out, start fresh, and act like a real professional organization instead of some cow town stick people institution, because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that the third largest media market in the United States has one of the smallest NFL stadiums in the entire league. It's simply pathetic. Ownership is weak, ownership is stupid, and ownership is flat out flaccid when it comes to football. They don't understand it. They may be highly educated individuals. They may have a history of being very highly educated. These people couldn't tell you wouldn't know a football from a pile of you-know-what. because that's just how they operate. You've had now long-tenured heritage players come out and say the Bears organization is a loser. They hire losers. That is a direct quote from Doug Buffone, number 50, the great number 55 of the Chicago Bears. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing when you have players, heritage players, come out and say, when I was playing, you don't know, it was bad. It was that bad then. You heard, wait till next year. We're going to fix it. And it never gets fixed. Wait a minute, where have we heard that? We've heard that from the other organization for countless years. Back when they had a very poor owner, I shouldn't say poor ownership, but a very tunnel-visioned, one-track mind ownership group when the Tribune owned the Chicago Cubs. Well, what do they have now? Yes, they found and identified the correct people to bring in and give the system and organization that enema and clean up the mess. They did that. They ate the contracts. They traded away plenty of alleged star talent, one-time star or big-ticket talent, and it was rough. It was rough for a couple of years. Look where they're at now. There is hope. There is light. White Sox have had to do it very differently because it's a different organization, because the fan base is completely different, because the revenue streams aren't there. They've had to try to redo everything on the fly while being competitive, or at least having the face of being competitive. We can look back on it right now, and I can look back on it right now and say there's no chance in hell that the White Sox were actually competing over 2013, over 2014, and 2012. It just wasn't happening. They just weren't good enough. It just flat out weren't good enough. And that's just what the case is. Over that time, GM Rick Hahn has come in and revitalized the farm organization, the farm clubs. They've reorganized the team to operate in a modern fashion where you're building your organization from within. You're making key scouting identifications and acquisitions. Yes, Jose Abreu was a tremendous find, but that's a credit to their scouting staff, to find him, and then ownership to go out and say, you know what, this is a player that can help us now and help us achieve our goals right now. So, yes, a lot of rebuilding, but they've been able to identify the good pieces of talent to put them in a position to win for the next couple of years and going forward. I certainly like their chances a lot more than what the Detroit Tigers are doing right now. That's a whole nother story. But getting back to the Bears, it's going to be fans haven't seen the darkest yet. It hasn't gotten that dark. We want to know when it's going to get that dark? It's going to get that dark about August, when not spring training, but summer camp comes, training camp comes. And what do you have? You have the same cartoon characters that are up there spouting their insanity and their nonsensical, tone-deaf, sheer stupidity. That's what you're going to get next year. Because the Bears organization is just that stupid. They are just that flaccid to not take action. They do not take action. They don't have what it takes to take action. They don't have the stones to operate the Bears as a business. They just don't do it. They're not aggressive enough, and that's just the plain fact of it. So I hate to break it to you, but it's going to suck, and it's going to suck hard. It really is. And there's no confidence, and you should have no confidence. I have no confidence that the Bears are going to make the proper changes to get them closer to winning a Super Bowl. I was enthused, and I probably even said it on these airwaves, and I think all of us had talked about it on these airwaves, or this feed, I should say, that we were very happy that the Bears were starting to act like an adult organization and talking about getting closer to winning a Super Bowl, doing what's necessary to win a Super Bowl. You can't undo 20 years of crappy draft. You just can't do it. You cannot undo that many mistakes in this short of a time span. You cannot misidentify coaching staffs. You just can't do it. You cannot not do your research and give money to disaster-ridden players. I don't want to specifically call Jay Cutler a disaster-ridden player. He certainly is a coach killer, I'll say that much. But they had plenty of options going into this season. One of them was not necessarily a $60 guaranteed million contract, I believe, for Jay Cutler. It just wasn't. You had franchise tag options Sure, it was going to cost you a lot up front, but guess what? You could buy yourself. It was not a long-term commitment. You didn't have to deal with it. It wasn't a marriage like it is now. It was dating. It was a mutual agreement for 1 year. It was live-in, common law, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't binding. Right now, it's binding, and it's going to suck, and it's going to cost you a pretty penny to make them go away. It really is, and you're not going to get anything back in return. Best case scenario, you trade him to the Titans for maybe second and third round picks for the next couple of years. Maybe. Best case scenario. Really is kind of these days. It's just not there. Maybe you trade him to Houston. Maybe you trade him to the Raiders. I don't know. It's just a disaster. It's not looking up. It's not looking bright. It's very, very dark. You have Brandon Marshall, who's a flat-out lunatic. Just a flat-out crackpot. I have no problem saying that because I know exactly what kind of crazy he is. I am very, very familiar with that kind of crazy. So, that being said, it's been a very rough season for the Bears. There's 3 more disasters that they have to endure. Expect a nice moon pounding from them, on them by the Saints come Monday night. Monday night has been very good for some blowouts. I would certainly expect this to be up there as a big-time blowout. I would not expect double-digit margin for you gambling types because it's just going to be bad. This organization, the Bears organization, is dead in the water. Rudderless, leaderless, sailless. It's a disaster, and they deserve every bit of it. They deserve every bit of ire, malcontent, and just overall bad publicity. They deserve it, and they deserve it by the truckload for how lazy and stupid and incompetent they truly are. And just the fact that they had the nerve to lie to you about it, that deserves every bit of it. And they should have to eat every bit of it because that's just unconscionable to act like that. It truly, truly is, especially in this day and age, and especially in this market, and for all the things that they want to say. You want to talk about tradition? You got one of the crappiest traditions out there. So, that being said, enjoy the weekend in sports. Bulls are doing Bulls things, grinding injuries, blah, blah, blah. Wake me up when the playoffs start. Blackhawks are currently owners of the longest winning streak in the NHL. 8 games right now, winners of 9 of their last 10, and continuing an East Coast road trip before they come back for some home cooking. But overall, very good start to the season for them. Jonathan Toews was injured during the skirmish in, the game in Boston. Did not return. It ended up taking a hit to the boards in the head. So we certainly hope him a speedy recovery and hope that he does bounce back quickly. I don't want that to become a lingering injury or issue, especially at this point on. With the playoffs being the more important of the two, but yes, regular season is important just because of the new stupid seedings that they have. So they have taken over their conference as conference division leaders. So I'm very happy about that, and as all Blackhawk fans are, needless to say. So we certainly hope that trend continues as the West continues to dominate the East. That's always very nice, and that's all that it's been. It's been a nice, good old-fashioned Western moon pounding to the East these days, especially at the hands of the Blackhawks. So that's even sweeter. So I hope everybody does have a good weekend. It's been a very good, satisfying baseball week, as that should warm everybody's stove and get everybody really interested for spring training, as it's going to be a very bitter winter. It's going to be a bitter, bitter winter these days, especially in the end of 3 weeks when the Bears season does come to a crashing halt. So enjoy the game. Enjoy the games that are out there and being played this weekend, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to Chicago Sports Update here on Intrepid Audio Productions. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter by searching IAP Podcasts, all one word. We make it easy to listen to us at home or on the go because you can subscribe to us via iTunes or on your browser at Spreaker.com. Listen to us on the go with the Stitcher Radio app, available for all smartphones. Want to interact with the team directly? Leave any questions, comments, or feedback you may have at our Facebook page. You can also like our page